Hi everyone, it's Captain McConnell here from Enterprise Lab, and welcome to another edition of the League of Disruptors Show. And boy oh boy have we got a show on for you tonight. I have the one and the only Rich Waterman in the house today. Give it up for Rich, guys. So what can I tell you about Rich that you probably don't already know? Well, he's going to come and tell you his story in a little while. But here is a guy who gave up investment banking, went into philanthropy events and activities. He's a master NLP practitioner and almost a sidekick to Tony Robbins, and we're going to talk about that for a little while as well today. He's just a fun-loving guy. He really impacts people. Every person that I know that he's connected with or had some interactions with have always been inspired to conspire and do what they want to do. And today I've got the guy on for 1 hour to be talking about not just Tony Robbins, not just the stuff that he does, but how to develop a life which is limitless, which is totally limitless. So without further ado, I would like to welcome the man himself, Rich Waterman. Rich, how you doing?
Oh, very well, my friend. Thank you for that intro. I was thinking, boy, oh boy, we got a show. I was thinking, oh, who we got on tonight? But then,
We've got you, son. We've got you.
Yeah, a real pleasure, my friend. I say we've not known each other in that many years, but I feel like I've known you forever. So I'm really, really grateful to be on the show and excited to chat with you for an hour.
Oh, it's crazy. And thank you for sparing the hour for us, basically. So guys, as you start loading up, make sure you're racking up your questions for Rich Waterman. We're going to have him on for roughly 58 minutes now, so I want to squeeze every ounce of intelligence and guidance and tips and advice and that we can get out of Mr. Waterman today, basically. So Rich, while everything's warming up, why don't you tell the world who Rich Waterman is and how you got to where you are today?
Oh, goodness me, right, potted version, otherwise I'll fill up the other 57 minutes, whatever we got. So right now, what I do, Ketan, is my field of expertise is mindset. I'm absolutely fascinated by how people think, and more importantly, how do they implement. So this concept of being limitless for me is about choice, and there is so much choice in the world right now. In fact, it's almost so much choice it's actually overwhelming and confusing. So I started really in the field of mindset about 10 years ago, and for the last 5 or 6 years, I've been absolutely obsessed with implementation. And so working with either startups or existing business owners on business strategy and combining that with mindset, so that, you know, theory's great, but unless you implement it, it actually in some ways is worse, because then you know what to do, but you're not doing what you know you should be doing. Yeah. And that can be very, very painful. And that became my obsession. Like, my background years and years ago is I was a biologist at university. And so I've applied that kind of scientific interest to personal development. I think there's an awful lot of nonsense out there. I think there's an awful lot of stuff that's spoken about regularly, and people assume that it's the best thing that you should be doing mindset-wise, and I don't think it is. So I've been looking at a combination of biological stuff, particularly ancient things like our limbic brain that drives our subconscious, and why that sometimes stops people from change. You might consciously want to change, but you're not able to, because there's all these systems and processes running in the background that's absolutely sabotaging you. So spent a while at university, realised I didn't enjoy sexing fruit flies too much, sat in a careers office final year, crying my eyes out not knowing what to do, and I thought, let's do something competitive and well paid. So I went into investment banking for my sins. I wasn't the one responsible for 2008, at least I don't think so anyway. Because I was out by 2001. So
okay, yeah, it's just the aftermath, the ripples of you leaving.
Yeah,
that's
the ripple,
what it was.
The ripple went out. I really enjoyed the challenge of investment banking. I was very good at it, very good with numbers. Thought I was an analytical process person and not a people person at all. And then went through a divorce in 2001, and that tipped everything on its head. So started setting up my own businesses, investing in businesses. And it came to around about 2005, and a few life events meant that I was pretty darn depressed and pretty unhappy, in 35, classic midlife crisis, and didn't understand this. Had a lot of success with this, multi-millionaire at 31, miserable as sin. First of all, I made it because of money, and then realised that actually lack of money also can be a challenge as well. But I see that so much with people. You know, money's a tool at the end of the day. 2005, went looking for answers, came across Tony Robbins, did my first event with him in 2006, knew I would become a trainer. We can talk about making things a must rather than a choice later on, but went through that environment, became an NLP trainer as well, was promoted to a trainer with Robbins 2012, and then my brain always asks, how can I make it better? And actually that's one of Tony's questions as well. And so even with someone like Tony Robbins, I'll look at his content and go, how can I make that better? And Tony's space is creating the possibility for change and inspiration for change. But his thing probably isn't, I think he'd be the first to admit, his thing is not about, okay, how do you now take this home and take action on it?
Yeah.
That's why you'd buy Robbins coaching, for example. So my obsession has been implementation. It's like, okay, let's make this practical and effective, and to actually try and minimize down the amount of stuff you need to do for mindset, but make sure you are doing those core essentials. So that's about as quickly as I could do my potted history.
Well, this is it. This is amazing. I mean, do you know the transitions? I mean, from where you were to when you first started out, what your intentions were. You know, when you were studying what you were studying. It's amazing how, you know. I mean, I've been working in the sort of education space for the last 5 or 6 years. I'm actually a product of someone who's very naive. When I left university, I left purely on the basis that I wanted to become a car designer, and my professor had never designed a car. So, you know, that's as simple as it was for me. And the thing with that is that there's such level of uncertainty when you get to that, you know, all right, fine, you've done it, you've got your qualification, now what? You know, what are you going to do now? Actually, the career that you thought you're going to go for isn't really what you want to do. And then, like you say, you jump from sciences into investment banking. Okay, there is a model of science that's used in investment banking. But it's interesting when, you know, to look back and say that transition, what made that transition? What made you choose investment banking? And then all of a sudden, like you say, and we'll come to this during this conversation about the extremes of money, how money drives you in one particular way, and how it also drives you in another particular way. You know, that there's that saying that's out there about, you know, how you measure yourself, not when you're up there, but more in the case of when things aren't happening around you in that respect.
Definitely.
And then kind of picking up from what you just said about, you know, I think every person that I've connected with that has that kind of disruptive nature about them, or are really passionate and focused and frustrated with the industry that they're working within, have had some form of controversy in their life. They have to. You know, there's got to be something that hits you against the wall. I mean, I lost my job and almost lost my life at 2 different occasions, not at the same time. You know, Warren Ryan was on earlier in the series, and he was talking about the fact that, you know, he came up from a broken home in this respect. Jamie Alderton talked about the fact that, you know, when he left this work that he's doing in Kenya, he found out on the way home that he's lost his job. That's, you know, everyone that I've kind of connected with has had some point of controversy in their life. And what I want to top on, you know, kind of attack first is 2 things. Number one, is it imperative that there is some form of tilt or life-changing situation that comes within your life that enables you to accelerate into what you're doing today? Or, you know, or is it a situation that actually you can actually just not have those kind of dramatic things happen and live quite a trivial life and still be able to do the things that, you know, we do in the industry today?
Brilliant question. I don't think it is necessary, but I think it is very useful. So if I go back to 2001, which was a very painful divorce, and I didn't enjoy my job. I hadn't enjoyed my job for probably about 5 or 6 years, but I was getting very well paid for it, and it provided for my wife at the time and young family, and so it met a lot of needs. And it also, particularly, you know, as I wouldn't say guy, but that male energy of wanting to provide, and that being an important part of our makeup, that's a very, very strong drive. And it's like, well, if I don't do this, what else do I do? How else can I meet that identity? But I knew there was something wrong. There was a lot of friction within myself in terms of getting very, very stressed, being ill, so on and so forth, and quite frankly being a bit of a pain in the arse to live around, really. And sometimes you need that slap in the face, and all those people you talked about, you know, there's been that that pain point. We talk a lot about motivation, and people will move away from pain and move towards pleasure, but we definitely move way faster away from pain than we will move towards pleasure initially. Mm-hmm. And that divorce for me was a massive pain point. It was like, okay, your life is not working, and here's the message to make sure that you know that, which is the person you thought you're going to spend the rest of your life with is now gone, and you're now going to see your kids at best half the time. So if you need anything to smack you in the face and going, you're not living life how you're meant to live life, then that is, while a horrible thing to go through, I would not be doing all this stuff that I'm doing now without that message. And I think that's probably common through a lot of people that you've had on the show already, and also have coming up as well. So that massive jolt of pleasure can be that wake-up call. I think it's so easy. I think even more so now with people connected to electronic devices and what have you, that we're almost all anesthetized, really. Everyone's going around. We are plugged into the matrix.
Yeah.
And you know what, I know I can feel myself getting pulled into it sometimes as well. And I think that disruptive influence that is common between a lot of us is, do you know what, I'm not going to play that game anymore. I refuse. That game in my case, that game cost me too much. It actually, and ultimately what it does is it cost me my identity, and that's the ultimate. That everything else that happened was because of that. I lost myself in essence.
And I wanted to kind of dig into that a little bit more, you see, because I think this is such powerful stuff for the type of audiences that would watch this kind of show. We have the would be, should be, could be type of entrepreneurs. We have those that are stuck on the hamster wheel of procrastination. We've got those that fear jumping, and I am not a believer of taking leaps. I'm more of a situation of actually create a calculated bridge that allows you to move across. Don't leap.
Yeah, we can definitely talk about
that. you can end up injuring yourself quite significantly. But this bit about identity, you see, as I say, we come into the world, we don't have a form of identity. We are very inquisitive beyond our years, but unconscious to that inquisitiveness when we're children. We start to mature, and through that maturity we start to conform. We're told the do's and don'ts. Media influences, our parents, our generations, whatever the political, all these influences conform you to what you are. But I'm a believer that every person, every individual has a tilt point within them. That tilt allows them to almost take a different direction. It almost kind of digresses them to something completely different. Now, some people see it almost straight away. Others, it takes a whole eternity. It doesn't matter when you see that tilt. It's just that you've got to know that there is a tilt. Yes. And I think that's all of a sudden what happens is you lose that sense of identity, and it's almost as if you've gone back to becoming a newborn again. You become very unconscious to everything around you, but your focus point, your conscious state is very much focused on what have you lost, not what is open out there. So look, that transition period where you felt that you'd lost your identity. Now it was playing havoc with your moods. It was playing havoc with the way your motivations, what you wanted to do, where you wanted to go, who you wanted to be around, and who you didn't want to be around. What did you have to do to kind of recognize that tilt, and what is it that you started to apply within yourself that got you turning into that kind of the person that I see today, who's someone that wants people around, thrives about people around them, and really wants to sort of push things forward?
I love that question. I probably didn't make sense about it until I started going to the Robin stuff in 2006, but the process definitely started in 2001. So when what you thought was the most important thing's taken away from you, which is the relationship with your wife, it's like, okay, so what is there left? And it was very, very easy for me at that point in terms of, okay, what is number one priority? And number one priority was my kids and my identity as a father. So I think there's a process there which is, okay, do you know what? There's been a massive disturbance in the equilibrium. So then you've got to go back to, okay, what is absolutely, definitely the most important thing for you? So that was kids. So then I thought, right, okay, I want to spend as much time with my kids as possible. And so straight away, okay, banking is not compatible with that. It was very handy that I didn't enjoy the job anyway.
Convenient.
So then it's like, okay, well, do you know what? For me to be able to look after the kids, I need to have some way of generating money. I was in a fortunate position. I was cash rich, but you know what? You can burn through that pretty quickly, particularly if you're going through divorce proceedings as well.
Yeah, sure.
And so it's then, okay, I just started to look at what do I enjoy doing? What are the things that I really, really focus on? And one of the things that I work with business owners is something what I call an identity quadrant. And I guess I started to form that even then, which was what am I passionate about? What do I love? What do I even like? What are things that I enjoy doing? I just went through that process of, do you know what? What do I like banking? Well, actually, I really like the analysis part of it. I liked looking for patterns. I liked seeing what didn't fit. I liked solving problems. So that was something. Okay, I want to work with that. Sometimes we struggle a little bit to find out what we really like and what we're passionate about. And also, definitely, if I work with teenagers, they can actually quite often struggle to focus on the positive.
Yeah.
So then the best way then to look is to go, okay, what do I hate?
Yeah.
What do I strongly dislike? And then flip it around. So, I hated the 8 till 7, probably realistically in banking, probably even longer than that. I hated working around arseholes, quite frankly. I wanted to work around quality people. I have got some very good friends from that time, so thumbs up to them if they're watching this. But there are a few. I hated too much routine or repetition. And so that I think, okay, so how does that flip over? Well, I want to be more creative. I want to work around quality people. I want to be able to set my own hours. I want to put the kids first and work around that. Then I started looking at a third thing, which was, okay, what skills do I actually have? I know I have financial knowledge. I know that I'm very good at analysis. I know that I'm good at speaking. I know that I was good at training. I know I had good leadership skills. And then the final piece was patterns of success. So I looked back over my working career, also university, school, etc., and was like, okay, where have I easily achieved success, and maybe even taken it for granted? And so I built all that up, and then kind of pieced it all together, and that then formed into, and I'd say fortunate, actually. I'm going to take that word back. I think when you're aware of, okay, how does that start to map out for me?
Yeah.
You then start to filter the world appropriately and look for opportunities, even if it's subconsciously. And opportunities started coming up in consultancy areas, so I could still use the analytical skills. I could choose who I work with. I could work flexibly around the kids and so on and so forth. And so that was the initial transition, was almost, as you said, going back to a blank canvas. And do you know what? If people are thinking about transitioning and go that it's such a wonderful opportunity, but it's making sure you don't. I mean, I was lucky because in essence I did leap, but I had a massive cash buffer.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a leap because I had time to sort things out, and I think this tapering out, tapering in thing is the way to go. And because I tried an experiment on myself a few years later, which maybe we'll talk about later on in the interview. I was coaching a group of clients, and they were saying, "Do you leap or do you taper?" And I said, "I believe you taper." And they went, "Well, how do you know?" And I said, "Well, it just feels right." And so when I created my coaching business, I leapt. And that was interesting.
Well, it's interesting you say this, because what I loved about the sort of process that you kind of described just there is a lot of people tune in to what they're most passionate about, and the motivation and enthusiasm that they have for this. A lot of my clients that I work with today are all people that are trying to break away from the monogamy of their current life, and they're trying to start something new. They're trying to escape something in this respect, and this has come as a contrast from what they see from outside, plus the very thing that you described. A lot of people are family, they have families, they want that freedom, they want that flexibility, they want to live life on their own terms, kind of thing. And I think it's all great. I think it's all wonderful. But the bit that I get caught up on is people glue themselves too much to their passion and too much to painting a perfect picture of what something looks like. Whereas what you actually did is you reverse engineered it. You said, do you know what? I'm not going to look at, or even with young people, you said, we're not going to look at what you're interested in, what you're passionate about. Let's start the other way around. Let's start to process, eliminate all the stuff that you don't want to do. And actually, it's interesting the contrast that you can pull out from that. The thing that's interesting, the next part of the observation of what you were saying that's really interesting is, once you got it set into your head, I'm good at training, I'm good at analysis, I can do this. These are the things, they're not just what you're good at, it's what you enjoy doing. There's a difference here. So, I mean, because you can, it was, if you took the finance part out of the analysis and the banking industry that you're in, you probably would have stuck where you are. If it was just the raw skill bit. That if I was just to say you're a lead analyst, analytics person, and you're going to be doing training all your life, you'd probably be a pig in muck in that sense. It's just the industry that was around you and the influences in that industry. What you're actually describing here is defining what you are good at, but what you actually enjoy working on most. And immediately, when those two things come together, your perception changed. And what I mean by that is not your attitude or your behavior, just your perception. So you started to see opportunities that you never could see before. And it's the kind of message that I want to get across to our audiences. I'm going to go back in and just soon in a second, just to pull up some feedback from our audiences in a second. But I just want to kind of reiterate this point here, that you don't make those leaps. You don't do a transition of one day you are in a highly paid job and the next day you quit. I did something anally stupid like that in 1999. I was working in an IT company, being seconded to Apple. I was earning a stupid amount of money helping them do their supply chain management into Europe for the iMac, and as a result of Y2K, the threat of the internet exploding and dying and the bubble's going to burst, I left the industry. I left a high-paying job just because I was stupid enough at that time to think that everything was going to die. But what I fell into was electronics, and I had no clue whatsoever about electronics at that time. I could pretty much just about switch on or plug something in. But over 5 years, I developed a product which is now in every GP surgery across the UK. Cool. So the reason I'd say this to you, or I'm bringing this up, is we go through these peaks and troughs of complacency and environment, and it's not the core of what we're doing that we need to change. It's the environment we're doing it that needs to change. And I suppose what I'm going to ask you next is, you started to see these opportunities for consultancy pieces coming on. When was it that you felt this isn't just about doing consultancy for other companies? I want to be able to stand up and do training or speak out, and give my own expertise. When did you start feeling that inner glow for that kind of stuff? Yeah,
that's a really good point. So. I think probably I was probably in recovery for a couple of years, and so actually just doing the consultancy and just buying myself space was probably going on for a couple of years. And then I started to attend just a few different events and just have an awareness of, okay, this is interesting. There's a few things going on out there, a few internet marketing pieces, self-development, so on and so forth. And I just became aware that there was stuff that people were doing that maybe wasn't the standard 9 till 5 existence that most of us are in. Definitely the tipping point was the Robin stuff. 2006 February, UPW, went along, learned some mind-blowing content, and helped myself to resolve a lot of conflict that I was feeling at the time. And straight away from that, I was like, I need to teach this. And for me, it was from that point on, it was a building pressure where I'd sit there and I'd be the student, and it is important to put that time in to say, okay, do you know what, I'm going to get those building blocks in place. You need that foundation in place. I needed the Tony Robbins training in place so I could then evolve my own stuff from it.
Sure.
And so while my stuff is quite different now from what Robbins teaches, it wouldn't exist without those building blocks. But there was definitely a pattern there of sitting in audiences, watching speakers, and this growing feeling of, I need to be up there. I have a growing message. And first of all, I just started, and actually I was just basically just saying, look, I learned this from Tony Robbins. I was a reporter. I learned this from Tony Robbins. I learned this from NLP. I learned this. And just teaching it, but teaching it with my way.
I like
and
that.
And then slowly putting little twists of my flavour onto it as I went along.
Beautiful, because that's the point that I'm trying to get to. There was a stage in your life where you wanted something. Okay, I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. when you just spoke about this now, when you're in that audience and you're listening to Tony, and you know you've absorbed UPW in, you just said, and I quote you, "I need to be on that stage."
Yes.
There is a big difference between a want and a need, and I think
Yes, massive.
that's the drivers that I think I want to get out to people as well, to understand that. Yes, we all want things, but we also, what gets you there is the bits that you desperately need. I think that's I talk about the fact that passion's not enough in business today. You need a frustration, you need an anger, to drive you forward. So it's kind of a situation where you almost start to mold yourself. I want gigs, I want to be doing consultancy, I want to be free, I want to work on my own terms, I want to spend more time with my family and my kids when I can and however I can. But really, in order for me to do that, I need to be on the stage. And the other thing, sorry, before you come in.
That's all right. That's good.
The other thing is the bit that I preach about all the time to people: don't copy systems. You've got to personalize them. Yeah. And the bit that you talked about is Tony got me to an environment where I could see my inner opportunity, but I then had to boss and own my own system. I had to make it the Rich Waterman system, not the Tony Robbins system. Yeah. So just tell us a little bit more about, what you went through to get onto that stage and what you did to personalize that program.
Yeah. So that's a great point, and so one of the things I noticed in the current environment is obviously Facebook Live, YouTube, etc., is a great medium for people to share their message. But I do see a lot of people just copycat. And I'm like, I'm bored with that. I'd only so many times I need to hear about goal setting or vision boards or stuff like that. It's like, how did it work for you? What did you do? And that was the first stage really, was I'd say, right, I've learned this stuff from Robbins. This is how I applied it to me. This was what worked for me. This didn't work for me. I changed this bit. I dropped this bit out, and then I added this extra bit in. I just started using that as the base, and then just started kind of firing branches off it, basically.
So it's like a large Rubik's cube that every time you're kind of turning it around, there's a new color, there's a new shape, position. You perhaps almost forget part of the way that you got to that point, but all you know is you're just going to keep re-innovating it and reiterating it to get yourself going forward. This is fabulous stuff, guys. Look, if you're watching live, we've got Rich Waterman in the house. Here is one of Tony Robbins' kind of right arms, basically. I understand, if I'm right, you are going to be going off to Florida very soon to support Tony?
I am. On Saturday, I'm off to Date with Destiny for about 2 weeks.
Look at that. That is a date with destiny, isn't it? Oh my God. Do you know what? I tell you, Mr. Waterman has timed this perfectly, because the bloody weather is absolutely chopping over here, so he decides to sun it off. See, this is what happens when you believe in what you can do, make your own systems. You can decide when you leave cold climates. But let's see who we've got. Neil Alderson's in the house. Hi, Neil.
Hi, Neil.
My mum's watching this. Better not swear. Okay. Beiju's here. He said hello. Fito Castaneda's from Guatemala is one of my guys over there. James Orpin, Smith Gohill, Bavnica. We've got a few people in the house there. Get your questions in for Rich. We're going to be on for about another half an hour or so. We've already done 30 minutes, my friend.
Wow, it's gone fast.
It does go very fast. So, look, I kind of want to tiptoe away from the whole sort of process of, the birth of the new Rich Waterman, to a little bit more about where you are today. I think, I've got to know you sort of over the last year and a half or so. We've had some certain interactions. We actually haven't been on the same stages yet, but I know this is going to happen soon for sure. But tell us more about Limitless and the Gym of Greatness and all these wonderful things that you've been developing over the last sort of 12 to 18 months.
Yeah, so the Gym of Greatness actually started in 2011, and it was born out of necessity. It was I paid an absolute ton of money to become a speaker from stage. I knew how to speak, I just didn't know how to sell, so I worked with a guy called Brett McFall, paid him $25,000 to do that. And I needed a package to offer from stage, and I thought, okay, what would I want to call it? And I like the idea of the Gym of Greatness because you need to work at it. And I also like the idea that everyone has greatness, but you need to put work behind it. So I started to develop a 7-step system based on how do I think people can implement change. And in essence, it is really find out what you're great at, know where you want to go to, get rid of all the obstacles and blocks. Where are we going with the next one? Lay down, prepare yourself for the journey ahead, chunk down the journey into steps. How do you take consistently daily actions, create habits and standards to get those results? And then finally is the word present, which at the time was a bit of an add-on. I was like, okay, well, I need another step. And there was this concept of presenting what you do to the world. And then I realized actually it wasn't presenting, it was about being present and providing a gift to people. So the Gym of Greatness actually came about at that point and ended up being a group coaching program. Ran one more UK Europe based, one down in Australia. It's still a term that's out there. The gymofgreatness.com still exists. And then more recently, what evolves from that, and do you know what, it's quite funny because the concept of limitless, I've always used the word limitless a lot because it's, do you know what, we are only generally limited by our thoughts and some fundamentals of physics, which we probably can't get around yet.
Yeah.
I was actually chatting with a friend of mine and he said, you know, you're that good at mindset and that instinctive at it, why don't you run events whereby you get groups of people into a room and all the content is generated by you coaching people? Because this guy had been to Tony Robbins events and seen the interventions and gone, oh, I love that bit. It's just like, it's like being on the best TV show ever. And he said, could you do that? And I went, yeah, be easy. Oh, maybe not a Robbins level, but you know what, pretty close.
Yeah.
And he was the one, this guy called Steve Esser. He said, what would we call that? And he said, well, it's just basically just removing people's limits. So they'll call it limitless. And that's where it arose. And you know what? Those events are going to happen next year. They were meant to happen 2 years ago. But I then thought, well, do you know what? I'd actually like to take it wider than just live events, say maybe UK, Europe initially. I want to create a community. Because what I saw out there was an awful lot of really poor quality information, expertise being pumped out there. People being desperately in need of quality information, and more importantly, people desperately in need of a quality peer group. And there are things that go along. There are great networking groups. There's a Yes group in London, for example, that carries on the Robbins word and so on and so forth. But you know what? That's once a month. I personally, when I was doing the Robbins stuff, I wanted a great peer group. I wanted somewhere where I could go, okay, do you know what? If I want a great accountant, who do I go to? If I want someone that's great at branding and marketing, who do I go to? If I want someone that's great at mindset, who do I go to? And so that's where the Limitless community was created. And it's been in existence in my brain for a couple of years. And it was, again, got to a pain point earlier on this year. I was just looking at all the stuff out there on Facebook and whatnot. And thought, what a load of garbage. And within the space of, it was about 6 weeks, I basically just built the whole of this Limitless community.
Amazing.
And just launched it on the fly. And it has evolved actually over time. I originally had this concept of like having banks of experts and coaches and what have you. And actually what I've realized is the biggest value from it is in community, and literally people sharing, this is what I'm working on, this is what I'm focusing on, this is what I need help with, and this is what I can help other people with. And Limitless really is based on that, because do you know what? Most of our limits are based on the fact that we probably don't know the right person to help us with the block.
Yeah.
And that's how Limitless has arisen. The mindset piece has been more interesting in terms of when I first used to speak back in 2011, 2012, I started off speaking at World Internet Summit, so big sort of internet marketing events for this promoter, Beck McFall. And he wanted me to be the mindset guy. And so I was looking to sell a mindset. And I realized pretty early on that there's a certain type of person that will buy just mindset. And generally they have kind of worked through quite a few things, and they realize that it is that significant chunk that makes the difference. But most people will not buy mindset first. Most people will buy the push button solution, trading, internet marketing, Twitter solution, Facebook strategy, webinars, whatever, because it's appealing to their emotional side of I can get very rich very quickly, so I'll hit that button.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting.
And mindset.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
And mindset's a longer game for sure, a much longer game.
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned that about the sort of short-term play. I think a lot of the people that I've had on the show, even I've recently interviewed Brad Burton from a magazine, and Brad actually mentioned one of the things that when he realised that the short term was just crippling him, you know, and he had to play a mid to long term game, that's when everything started to really take its shape. One of the things that I guess we also need to sort of understand here, especially for the service industry, you know, this is where we have coaches and performance coaches, life coaches, mentors, all these kind of groups and activists. I mean, there's an abundance of them, and they seem to have, you know, 100-folded over the last 5 years. It just seems like everyone goes, okay, I can't find a job, I'm just going to become a coach. And I don't have an issue with that. You know, if you've got value to give, you've got value to give. That's the key thing here. Yeah. But what I get really angry about is that you need to start by understanding, and the customer themselves need to actually know that you understand before you start to apply solutions. I think more people today are not interested in the solution. They're more in the case of, do you get me? Do you actually understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? And sometimes we've got to know them better than they know themselves.
Oh, so 100% agree. Yeah, smack on.
With the work that you do in that sense, I mean, with Limitless and how this works, you know, as a community of groups, I get the impression that what you have here is you've got professionals that within this community that are saying, like, this is what I do, this is how I serve, these are the things that I can do, these are the things I can offer. But these are, all of a sudden, they've started to understand where the gaps are in their processes, and they've created this honesty and integrity within themselves to say, I am not the master at that, and that there is someone out there better who I could value that can help me achieve this. So whilst there could be a barter of services this way,
smack on.
Do you have within that community clients as well? So do you have like normal people that are being coached by the coaches that are in your community as well in Limitless?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. So it is for people at different stages of the journey as well. So almost what I call the exploration phase, in terms of, do you know what, and I still have a coach and a mentor as well, and I don't think I would not have one.
Sure.
And you know, I used to have a belief that as I get better at what I do and I understand my brain more, that I would actually get coached less, and I kind of go out to monthly or once a quarter, whatever. I actually get coached weekly right now.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
It's so useful. So yes, people at all different stages. Some people that are more sitting back, listening, absorbing that stage, and I went through that stage, and I still love to put that hat on. That learner mentality is so important, to be open to possibility. And then, you know, we've got people in there that are experts and sharing their expertise. It's very much a contribution based community. Everyone in there loves, actually, they're way more keen to contribute than maybe they are to receive help. Yeah. And that's something we've really been working on, is to say, do you know what, if you want to contribute and you want someone else to receive your contribution, there's got to be someone at the other end of that, and that person sometimes has to be you, and that applies to me as well, is to say, do you know what, I'm really, and I've recognised, as I've been running Limitless since the start of it was April, officially it was start of May, but it was April we kind of beta tested it.
Yeah.
I've recognised over the months I absolutely suck at some things, and so we've had to evolve it, and I've had to be very honest. Record a video this week to say, look, do you know what, we were using Blab as a system, which was awesome, and then they just took it away overnight, and it completely threw me, because I was like, oh, what else can I do? And so we found other solutions like Zoom and what have you, but it really made me rethink what the whole society, what the whole community was about, and how we could or would help each other. And you're absolutely smack on there. Something you said earlier on, Ketan, about, look, there's so many coaches out there, and you know what, some people stand out from a personality perspective. So someone like Michael Sura, I know you've got coming up next week. Michael is really quite a generic life coach. He hasn't really niched in terms of that area, but he has a very distinctive personality. So you know exactly what you get with Michael if you interact with him, and he's brilliant, absolutely brilliant at it. Great friend of mine, and brilliant at it. Other people, do you know what, you really do need to say, do you know what, this is my area of interest and expertise, because I understand how people operate and think in there, so I can align with them more easily. And it's certainly from coaching and mentoring, traditional sales techniques, I think, really don't work. It just creates distance to the end client. You know, I've really, and we talk about leaping. I leapt 3 years ago and went, right, do you know what? Stop everything else. I want to give this coaching a proper go. I got a mentor in place. I leapt. And I'm very fortunate to have a lot of assets, but it got to a point where I literally hardly earn anything for the first 4 or 5 months. Yeah. And I'm thinking, if this persists, I'm going to have to start to remortgage stuff and what have you. And that's going to be a bit embarrassing, given my backstory, to say, do you know what, I've actually run out of cash, so I'm going to have to start to make my assets work. And it was, what was great was I got to this tipping point again, and it was like, how I'm trying to sell doesn't work. I need to find a way to really align with potential clients, understand from their perspective, what do you genuinely need? And you're right, understand their needs better than them, so they can then join you in that place and say, right, from here, what are your options? You can carry on doing, I call it the tale of two paths.
Nice.
You can take this option, which is you're going to carry on by yourself, and that is a legitimate path. We've had this conversation. You have no obligation to me whatsoever. You go and do it by yourself. You create it by yourself. It's actually probably going to take you more time to do that. And as I get older, that for me is a very, very valuable resource. You might not get there. You might not have the resources or the understanding to get there. Yeah. But it is a valid option. Option 2 is you get a coach and a mentor to help you, or maybe both. You understand there's an investment of time, money, and energy down that path. You've got to make sure you're ready for that, because sometimes it's a bit like me fitting a turbocharger onto a bike.
Thank you.
A push bike, and you're not going to be ready for this, so you need something else first. And if you're going to go down that path, then I'll just go, your mum's on the line, so I can't swear.
No, you can. It's the League of Disruptors Show. Don't worry.
Damn well make sure that you like that person you're working with, because I've got some training and mentoring for people, very, very skilled, but I didn't like them. And you know what? You don't absorb it in the same way.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. Yeah. And you know what? I love what you're saying here, because this is the bit about the industry that I have been my bonnet about. The fact of it is it's been the whole industry has almost been bastardized into this whole thing of make money out of people. You know, and I'm not saying everyone does that, but you know, like you mentioned that Michael's generic in his approach, but his personality is very, very unique. What you see, what you get, and how he handles. For me, I'm, you know, within my kind of programming, I can help you see the problems, to solve the problems, but my bit is all about, I'm going to hold you accountable to get it done. You know, I'm the kind of guy that say, you know, I've got a client of mine right now, she's just procrastinates over idea after idea after idea. And I've said to her, today, on Friday, that's it. You've got that's your last day to come up with any more ideas about what you're going to do in your business. I go, the next time I speak to you, if you mention the word idea, I'm just going to put the phone down on you. And it's literally that shock and awe. The reason being is that we don't have to cast a paintbrush across the whole coaching and mentoring environment, and we don't have to just specialize in one particular industry and sector, but it's where in the journey of that person do we fit. And I understand that some people will work with me for 3 hours, some will work with me for 3 years, and I'm not pretentious about that. In that respect, I'm equally powerful, in solitude in my head, where I say to people, don't come to me and don't buy the product until you know you're ready to work, because you're not doing me any favors by giving me whatever money it is and then spending X number of hours of my time working with you for you to end up just piling. I go, you might as well just give me the money and let me just go on a wild night out, basically. At least I'll get something out of it in that respect.
Exactly.
So the bits that I want to get to with this is and this is fascinating, because I like the way that you're modeling the culture within Limitless with this, which is all about honesty, integrity, clarity, but it's also then recognition of how one supports each other. As professionals in our industry, we are better advice givers than we are receivers. So I've got this happened to me actually very, very recently, and I want to kind of see how this fits with you. Someone asked me, they said to me, they go, this is great, you do a lot of this accountability stuff, and it's perfect. My clients speak to me on a weekly basis. They check in with me, whether it's for 10, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever it is per week, and we move along. Someone goes, do you have anyone that holds you accountable?
Great shout.
And I was like, how do I answer this diplomatically? Because I'm a disruptor, but I'm also a diplomat, basically. So the truth of it is we are professionals in our industry where we are helping others, and we're the proverbial landscape designer who has a shit-looking garden, basically. So what I'm trying to get to, sometimes we don't practice what we preach to people in that respect. But there's one thing that I've learned from my evolution has been that actually it's my own clients that hold me accountable. I don't know how that kind of sits with you, but do you have that kind of sense of feeling with the work you do that almost your clients are holding you accountable just as much as you're holding them accountable?
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant, I hadn't really thought of it that way, but it's a brilliant insight. So one of the things that I always say, I deliberately have a very low number of clients because I would like to give them a lot. And I like to work with a certain quality of client. If you're not ready for that, there's group stuff, there's more generic stuff that you can do, and I'm doing an online thing next year, so people can build their way up from the bicycle up to a car. That quality of client will ask questions back, like your client did, and it is if I'm one of the things that I evolved towards was I started thinking, with mindset, who do I love working with and where am I getting great results? I think that's a great question for any coach or consultant to ask is, do you love doing it? Are you getting great results? And for me, it was helping people to either get businesses going or to grow existing businesses and reclaim back quality time. Because I think any numpty really, unless you're really clueless, you could work 18, 20 hours a day and create a pretty decent business.
Yeah.
But then you sacrifice everything else. So those sort of business owners, when I'm starting to ask some questions about, have you thought about doing this? Have you thought about doing this? They will commonly fire back, do you know what? I've done that piece, and it kind of worked. But how did that work for you, Rich? And sometimes I'll say, well, do you know what? I haven't actually done that bit. I know it works, and I've said to another client, and it worked for them. So I can tell them a story about this other client. But I said, do you know what? I haven't actually done that bit.
Yeah.
And so I will often go away, and then I'm a big believer in split testing and experimenting. So I will go away and go, do you know what? Brutally honest, it's something that I've learned in a book somewhere. I told one of my clients, they went away and did it, got a load of success, and I went, okay, I'll tell my other clients about it as well. And there's a lot of patterns that go across. And I went, I just never got around to doing it for myself. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. That's, I think, the key is to give people a toolkit and say, do you know what? This bit generally works very well for people. This bit, I think, will work for someone like yourself, but maybe not for another client. And I'm constantly, that's one of the things I love about the industry that I'm in, is somebody presents a problem, and thankfully, because I've been hammering it away now for 11 years, I can pretty much come up with a solution there and then. I had a phobia client today. I don't normally do phobias anymore. That's going back about 6 or 7 years now, and I used to do that stuff. And the lady couldn't engage in the exercise. So I was like, right, okay, what's another way of doing this? And just bang, something came through. But it is true that, often I am passionate about coaching people on stuff that I haven't resolved yet. And I will be very honest with them. I'll say, do you know what? I'm still working on that. I am really prize authenticity, honesty, and vulnerability very, very highly. But I know there are sometimes I will compromise that. And so by me interacting with clients on that, I am definitely learning a lot from that interaction as well.
And that's the kind of thing, the spirit that needs to be within the code, the ethical code of what we do. I talk about this a lot in the past, where I've said to people that we need, I know I might make this sound dramatic, but we actually have people's lives in our hands. They almost entrust us with their future, and they want us to guide us to the next part, to the Netherlands. And all of a sudden, we've got this responsibility bestowed upon us. I have no qualms about people questioning the integrity of the work that I do, because at the end of the day, if they're not questioning me, that means that obviously I'm not doing my hard enough to disrupt the industry in that respect. The second thing about this is I have no embarrassment or shame if I'm actually positioning something to someone that I've never undertaken myself, because actually this is the very engineering and analytic part of you that comes out, which is actually this hasn't been done before, and I think we should be looking at doing this with you. And like you say, it's a learning curve. Those coaches that are out there that actually believe they know it all and say it all and can do it all, they're going to have very, very restricted lives today, because our lifespans with their businesses in the industry. The reason I say that is our clients are becoming more and more educated. They're more and more, they're still vulnerable to a certain extent, but they're more and more educated about what they want, how they want it, when they want it. It's our responsibility to give them what they need. And I practice this a lot with my clients, when I give my keynotes and when I'm training people up. I do talk to them and say, remember, your customer knows what they want, but you've got to give them what they need. So they may need a Ferrari, but they may want a Ferrari, but they need their driving license first. So it's kind of being able to pull them back and learn sequentially as we go along. And I don't think there's ever going to be the world's greatest coach or the world's leading, because everyone is all of us are on a constant learning curve, whether it's the digital side of it, the acquisition side, the landscape, the environment. I mean, I've never coached anyone or mentored anyone that has had phobias. I mean, maybe one day I'll get one of those. I'm like, oh, how do I handle this, basically? But I'm just fascinated, and I know we've got about 10 minutes left, and I'm going to check out in a second if we've got any questions. I'm really fascinated with the inner workings of where you think Limitless is going to evolve into, because I think what you've done here is you started to create a core group of and a community of not just like-minded thinkers, but people that bring different dynamics into your community, and you need more and more of that fresh dynamic. Can you see a future of like these kind of, I don't know, digital carousels of your experts versus those that need the kind of the assistance, or even actually people coming in and challenging coaches to not their ethical practices, but the way in which they coach people? I mean, what's the future do you see for Limitless?
Yeah, I think that's a really, really interesting question. I've been thinking a lot about where is this going. I think some of the things is definitely this concept of sort of clusters or loose collaboration, and saying, okay, if we have these groups of experts hanging out a lot together, they're going to naturally find ways to work together and create some quite disruptive things just from the nature of them innovating in small groups. And I am a big believer in challenging and testing. So I would welcome one of the things that I did about 15 months ago is I set up a series of case studies. So I actually offered subsidized coaching in return for people being case studies to actually document people's journeys. And I'm encouraging members within Limitless as well to say, look, okay, do you know what? You're probably actually a lot better than you think you are. So actually you should actually really try and objectively track more what you're doing and the impact it's having on people. Now, some of it obviously is kind of soft impact and what have you, but I think the coaching industry needs that to say, look, do you know what? Well, I mean, phobias is easy, and I don't do them very often anymore. But today we had a lady who got her own swimming pool and couldn't put her face in the water because she had a traumatic incident at age 8. Okay. 2 hours later, she's ploughing up and down the pool with her face in the water. So then we can go, okay, there's been a significant change here. I've got a client that I spent 2 days with trying to resolve some staff issues. We ended up deciding to fire a member of staff, and he doubled his turnover and has now made an extra £500,000 quid. We need more things like that, and I think the problem with our industry is a little bit woolly and fluffy. And you know what? You look at someone like Andy Murray, it's a different sort of coach, but you could see his performance with and without Lendl as his coach. His performance since Lendl has come back in has been absolutely remarkable. And I do think Limitless has a role that in actually I would encourage experts within that community to to bring more objectivity to what they do, and sometimes that is challenging without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
And have people coming in that say, okay, do you know what, I want this result, and I'm very happy with businesses to say, do you know what, I'm prepared to put some skin in the game because I'm not expecting anything for free.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to pay you a percentage of my results rather than just giving you fixed money each time. And you know what? Good luck. The final bit about Limitless, which I'm very, very passionate about, is contribution. So how can these experts come together and really make an impact on the world? And I use the word be the difference rather than make the difference. So how can they be the difference? So again, through our clusters and through, guided intention, what could we do? My reference point for that, we haven't got time to go into it much today, but is a significant group of people, thousands of people came together to raise a lot of money for my friend's daughter who had cancer 2 years ago. And that had a significant impact on my life. And it wasn't necessarily the money raising, it was the sense of community that came from that and common purpose. And that's what I love about what you're doing, Ketan, is that you're pulling like-minded people together that have the nature, we're quite lone wolves in that we like to go down our paths for a little bit and kind of think things through and process, but we actually want to hang out with people like us.
Yeah.
We get energized by that and we get excited. And you're absolutely right, is what's great is, and I think the reason that we became friends quickly was that we both came together and just started talking about what we did, and neither of us was trying to prove that we were anywhere further up the scale than the other. It was just like, Ketan's great at this, I'm great at this, and then we put this together, we get something a little bit different. And that's probably the most exciting thing for me about Limitless, is people coming together and innovating through collaboration.
And it's one of the key reasons to why I want you to hear on the League of Disruptors show. I've got a question from Neil that I'm going to take in a second for you. But essentially, one of the reasons to it is the whole nature of disruption is to challenge convention, is to create an imbalance, and then continue that action. And I think any industry needs at some point its pillars shaken a little bit. And it's really and it's not to actually identify cracks and get rid of dead wood. It's actually to take it to the next level. And what you're talking about here, in terms of with the way Limitless works, is it's not shaking pillars, but it's giving an opportunity for people to move to that next level. Because you can't stay in the 1950s of coaching and mentoring. It doesn't work. It's not sustainable enough anymore. And it's not a case of saying that if you don't want to change, just curl up and die. But everyone has something within them that will which will make them pivot and retilt again. And this within itself is going to be an excellent opportunity for people to come through, especially from a professional industry like sort of coaching, business consultancy, and all that kind of stuff, to really reshape and say, where are my values? Where am I going? What can I now do a lot more of? I've kind of niched into it. I didn't expect to come into the market and say, right, I'm going to be a disruptor, and B, I'm going to work on this area. I kind of did what you did. I explored and I discovered, and then I defined, and then I thought, who am I as an individual? Created that identity. I said, what is it that I want to give? What is it that I want to receive back? And then it kind of, out of this mishmash comes, all of this stuff. So the fact that people can come through this kind of process with you guys in Limitless sounds phenomenal.
Oh, I appreciate that, mate. I think in both our cases it's in different flavors, but it's giving people permission to disrupt what may have previously been accepted as a norm. And we're right, we're different. Our attention spans as human beings are dramatically different from when we were kids. Massively different. It's a completely different universe. So the old models may work to some extent, but they're not going to work as well as they did, as you said, in the 50s, 60s, whatever. And so what I love about great communities is it gives people permission and a safe environment to start to explore and start to evolve to a different place, and to feed off what everyone else is up to.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So let me take this question from Neil. We are running very fast at time. First, I've got to ask you, my question to you is, are you okay to run for another 5 minutes or so?
Yeah, absolutely.
Lovely.
No worries.
You've got to ask that question first, guys. Remember, never assume that makes an ass out of you and me. Always validate, okay? So Neil Alderson says, just to say hi, had to stop on the M1 to post a note to say this is a great discussion and I'm inspired. What do you think has been the key factor in building up your personal brand and influence in the market?
Ooh, okay, that's a great question.
Yeah, so what do you believe is a key factor in building your personal brand and influence in the market? Okay,
I think a couple of things. One of which was, as I said before, really become a obsessive student. So I've studied Robin stuff, I've studied NLP, I read tons and tons of books. So I gather lots of resources, and from that I then innovate. So I go, okay, do you know what? This piece from Tony Robbins fits in with this piece from Ken Blanchard, BJ Fogg, and I can whiz them all together and I create something unique. And then for me, my way of building brand is I just love speaking. I am not one of these people that's actually, I probably need you, Ketan, because I'm not very good at consistently doing like blogs or Facebook posts or what have you. I just love getting up and speaking about it. So I'm very fortunate I was naturally good at speaking, but I have worked very hard at speaking. And even this year I've spoken more times than ever in my life, and I can see how my speaking is exponentially improved.
You've been all over the place. I've seen you. Every other week I'm like, he's over there, he's over there, he's over there. I'm like, gosh.
I am a speaking tart. And sometimes it wouldn't always commercially make sense, but it has given me an opportunity to explore a new topic. I regularly will go up on stage with 0 slides and a flip chart and go, right, do you know what I've been thinking about in a voice, for example? Let me tell you about what I've been thinking about to this point, and I'll evolve it as I'm speaking it. And so I think it's important to, I think we talked about this earlier on, gather resources of information, put your own flavour on it, and then find the natural channel for you. It might be blogs, it might be Facebook Lives, it might be videos, it might be audio programs. I just love live. I feel very comfortable live. I'm very effective live, and that has been my way of creating position, brand, connection, creating clients, all that stuff pretty much all comes through speaking, and a lot of that speaking is obviously in the Robbins environment. Yeah. I'm very fortunate to have created that position through that, but again, that's something I very deliberately worked on to say, it wasn't even I must become a trainer. I actually knew I was going to become a Tony Robbins trainer, and that's obviously given me a position whereby I can get invited to speak as well. So if you haven't got that position, maybe you need a book, maybe you need to do something dramatic, do something amazing for charity, something extraordinary that's going to give you a reason to be on that stage.
No, that's fantastic. It's brilliant advice. And actually, for Neil, you already know, Neil's one of my clients, and Neil's actually in a transition. He's got a new platform called 3 to Try that's coming out very soon. Neil's almost a change agent. He's gone through a personal redevelopment of himself. Awesome. From being in the kitchen on a Christmas to turning around and saying I'm now going to compete in triathlons and stuff like this, and he's working down this line. And one of the things that I've always said to him is, I said, let's find your expert authority piece. I said, it's you can take the world's media and put your spin on it, or take your put your expert opinion on it. I think when we get up and speak, we're not just telling a story, we're actually putting base opinions in there, and people are actually, I'm not saying they're buying our opinions, we're not politicians in that respect. They're actually getting into that zone of understanding why that opinion states what it does, because people need to match it and feel it, as opposed to just, okay, I'm going to consume it in that respect. So I think what you've just said is just, thank you, because that's just reaffirmed everything that I possibly tell Neil on a daily basis. And Neil, if you're still watching this, I hope you're not driving on the M1, and I'll be speaking to you on Friday. I'll be speaking to you about this tomorrow at 2 o'clock. So last thing, look, first of all, I want to thank you for spending an hour with us, and there's been some great insights and stuff like that. It's been an absolute honor to really sort of dig in a little bit deeper into your story and how things have sort of transitioned. I think people can who watch this can kind of take a realization that you don't have to make it complicated. there is always going to be a reinvention. You can always evolve yourself. So two things. What tips do you have for anyone? Number one is, what tips do you have for anyone that is either planning to come out into this kind of personal development industry or services industry where they want to give? What tips do you have for those people, and what tips do you have for those that are currently in there but on a hamster wheel going round and round?
All right. Okay, so people going new into it, I'm a big believer. A lot of my clients start with the Robbins Achiever cycle. So I think it is, if you're going to be new into it, be very clear about the results that you want. Spend a lot of time building up beliefs that will support those results, because that's often where people will come up stuck. From that, you will create possibility. Then this is where the challenge comes, is you need some way of focusing and narrowing down that possibility to take some really, really key focused action. And that's why I have a coach and a mentor, is to go, right, they can help me to reinforce all those first three stages. Are you clear on the results? Have you got enough belief around that? Do we need to find more evidence of belief around that? Do we need to create enough possibility where you're going to get excited? And then, right, okay, of that, probably max what are the three things you're going to act on to actually make this real. So if you can start working your way around that, and then you're going to get the results, you're going to keep working around, you're going to start to really achieve. But I cannot emphasize enough that all the money that I've spent, and it's definitely well over 6 figures, the money that's paid off is when I've invested in coaching and mentoring, because it just helps you focus on what you get. If you're already in the business and maybe hamster wheel, and maybe you're not getting what you want, I think the key is this, is you need to get away, and there's an expression that goes around the coaching world, which I find very funny, and I think it's very true, is needy is creepy. You need to find a way to have enough money to pay the bills, and it might be you need to get a job, you need to do something that's not quite as sexy, but particularly if you're in the service industry, you need to get that base covered so you don't need that next client you're in front of. Because when you don't need that client, you can genuinely listen to them, align with them, make the best decision for them. And that decision may be not to work with you, but you know what, that'll pay off long term, because they're going to tell everyone else they meet what a great person you were, and you really served them. And I think I put a video up on my Facebook timeline the other day. It was a Gary Vee talking about Nike trainers.
Yeah.
And it was smack on. It was like, you know what, Nike never really try and sell you a trainer. No. And if you're in this business of service, you cannot sell your service or coaching to someone. You've got to get yourself in a financial position by whatever means you need to, where you can genuinely sit with a client and serve them and genuinely be indifferent. And I use that word carefully, because sometimes I have to tell clients, look, I need to tell you at this point, I really, really would love to work with you, and I need to put that on the table, because I need to come back from that and try and serve you impartially again. If I can genuinely serve you impartially, you will create incredibly loyal clients, some that will work with you, as you said, for a short term or a long term, but even the ones that only work with you short term will tell everyone else about you, and you will very, very quickly move to a place where you don't need to do that other stuff to pay the bills. But genuine service, and you know what, I work on this daily to improve my qualities in this area, because it's much easier said than done, and I've been at it for a good 3 years now, properly, and I'm still not very far.
Phenomenal. I think that's amazing advice, and thank you for that. So how can people connect with you? How can, you've got Limitless, we've got all the stuff we talked about. I'm sure there are going to be people out there that I'm like, do you know what, I need to get onto the Rich Waterman flex, basically. So, yeah. So where do they go? How do they connect with you? How can you be of service to them?
Yeah. Oh, thank you, my friend. So particularly, look, there's easy ways to connect with me and not. So you're probably the same as I do. I've got just floods and floods of Facebook requests, and I just don't know which are spam accounts and whatever. So if you actually want to contact me first, the best thing is to email me, and I like to keep things simple. So it's richwaterman@richwaterman.com. So it's my name and then @myname.com. Email me if you do want to connect with me on Facebook, something like that. Email me first and say I've sent you a friend request, and I can track you down. The best website currently, and it is being redone by my good friend Mark Wilshire, www.richwaterman.com. It talks about, my main passion right now is working with high quality clients who are generally business owners or high net worth individuals that want to perform at a higher level but don't want to pay the time cost. So richwaterman.com's got that stuff on there. The next few days and weeks I'll be putting more pieces up there around. We've got some group coaching programs for coaches that want to build their business, some online programs, and Limitless is also on that site as well. So richwaterman.com and richwaterman@richwaterman.com, and then I can connect with everyone from there.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. On behalf of Enterprise Lab and the League of Disruptors, I salute you, sir. It's incredible to have someone of your pedigree and your experience and just your openness to come on the show. And as I say, I'm excited to hear more about what Limitless is doing in terms of disrupting this kind of space here. You, my friend, obviously you're a leader server in that kind of perspective, and I just love the attitude that you have towards the industry and what we've got to do. So look, guys, Rich Waterman at richwaterman.com. It's either richwaterman.com, either in that perspective. I'll be posting these details up very, very soon on the live. If you haven't had a chance to watch this live, obviously, and watching it recorded, please share it into your network, because I know you guys out there know someone that's in this industry that isn't doing it correctly, and we can help. Help through what Rich Waterman is doing with Limitless. There is always help there. Now, above and beyond that, please take advice. If you are thinking about starting up, get that plan in, get it all sort of put together. And like Rich has said, it's if you're going to be driven by the money because you're going to pay bills, you're not going to be able to be authentic enough to serve your client base. So somehow, some way, you've got to build a process and a plan in that you are free of that type of pressure, which allows you to focus into your customer.
Yeah.
Other than that, Mr. Waterman, I will see you round the merry-go-round, which is the speaker circuits, very soon. I wish you the very best of luck with everything else that you're doing. And for you guys that are watching out there, watch out tomorrow. We have the intense and insane and Maria Carry-On coming on to talk about
very cool.
To be happy. On behalf
Fabulous.
of Enterprise Lab and the League of Disruptors Show, I wish you guys good night.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for watching.